focus on the big questions. How can I make $20,000 more in a year? How can I make $50,000 more in a year? And you can start with number one. And that's what's going on, guys. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be talking about the top 6 mistakes people make in their 20s and their 30s. So let's jump right into it. Mistake number one, you guys have heard me talk about in many videos. I've talked about it in the last video. Probably talked about it in the video before that, but that is not having an emergency fund. Not having an emergency fund could lead to mistakes 2, 3, 4, and 5 that I'm about to talk about. This is one of the biggest issues that people face today in their 20s and their 30s. They think they're young and they don't need to have money set aside for these emergencies. Whether it's your car repairs, whether it's your furnace in your house going out, God forbid there's a medical emergency, you're getting in a car crash. All these things need money set aside in a bank account, a checkings account, a savings account, and a money market fund. Wherever it's safe and it's not going up and down in the stock market, that's where you need to have at least 3 to 6 months of your expenses set aside. A lot of people go up to 12 months with their emergency fund, so they have a year's worth of expenses saved up in the bank, but that's not necessary unless you have a job that's hard to replace or you're not going to be able to find income within the 3 to 6 months that you have the money set aside for. Now, let's say you do have your emergency fund. One other mistake that people do with fund is they actually invest into the stock market. This emergency fund is only for security. You should definitely keep it in some type of savings account or money market fund, somewhere where you have quick access to it in a day or two. Many people put it in the stock market because they think, I'll just sell one when I need the money. The first issue with that is, what if your money's down? What if you're down 10%? You're not going to want to sell that. If you do, you lose 10% of that emergency fund. Put it aside where you have simple access to it. If you want to keep it in cash, that's perfectly fine. If you do not have an emergency fund as today, make a plan. Set aside some money every single month that will allow you to get to that 3 to 6 months expenses as fast as possible. Mistake number 2 that people deal with in their 20s and their 30s is taking on too much debt. Whatever the type of debt is, a lot of young people seem to think that this isn't a big issue. I'm just going to take out a loan and deal with this later. Now, debt is not bad. A lot of people who are wealthy use debt to their advantage. They use this to buy rental properties, cash flowing assets. But you should not be using debt to buy that Louis Vuitton purse. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Don't think you're able to buy these things when you can't even afford them in cash. If you can't afford them in cash, you definitely can't afford them in credit. I said earlier that credit card debt is some of the worst type of debt because this debt, like I said, is not a cash producing asset and its interest is high as 20%, sometimes 25%. So when you go to pay off that debt, say you put in $100, and I'm gonna make up these numbers just for the example. Say you go to put in $100, maybe $20 goes to interest and then $80 goes to the principal. So you're losing $100, but your pay down or your credit card bill is only going down $80 because how high the interest is. And that's, rough numbers. I just made those numbers up, but that's a prime example where interest is high and a lot of your money is going to interest and you're not paying off your bill as much as you can. Another type of debt that I mentioned that's common for a lot of young people is auto loans. Many people think they can afford that BMW with a payment of $400, $500, $600, but when it comes to look at the actual loan, they end up paying 8% interest with a 10-year loan. You're going to be paying off this car for 10 years. Do you think that car is going to last 10 years? I don't think so. So when it comes to an auto loan, buy something reliable. You don't need the flashiest car out there. If you can afford it, go for it. But if you're going to have to take out a loan, if you're going to have to take out high interest debt for this car, do not take on that loan. The rule of thumb for a car payment is that it should not be more than 10% of your income. And you should be able to pay at least 20% of it down. Other bad debt is, when people have their impulse spending, they see something like, I'm just going to buy it. It's on sale. No, it's not on sale. You just spent $700. And then one of the worst debts that I hate is student loan debt. Not because, people are taking out money to advance their career, but because the college is now a business. I've seen dentists who graduate and they make however much money they make, but they're $500,000 in debt. Make sure that you're picking a career that you're going to stick with for the long term. If you plan on taking student loans, you don't want to take out $400,000 to become a doctor. Then when you become a doctor, you actually don't like it. So this is a major decision that you should think about over time. Mistake number 3 is not living below your means. Living below your means is that your money going out is less than your money coming in. Yeah, I think I said that right. You want to be spending less than you make. One thing that gets people in this mistake is lifestyle creep. And what this is basically when you get more money, your lifestyle simply gets more expensive. You're buying more purses, you're buying more jewelry, you're buying more expensive cars, whatever the case may be. Let's take an example of this. Say you're making $80,000 and your expenses every single year are $80,000. If you get a job bumping you up to, $100,000, $120,000, that doesn't mean that you should be spending $40,000 more. Try to live that lifestyle that you're still living. You could treat yourself here. You can buy, yourself a gift for the promotion, but do not go buy a new car just because you got a promotion. If your car is reliable, don't fall victim to lifestyle creep and think that you should be spending more just because you have more money. If you're fine at $80,000 expenses, stay there and then invest the rest. Mistake number 4, and this is for the young ones, and it is not investing early or not investing early enough. They say the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. And well, compound interest is basically the snowball effect of investing. Say you have $1,000 and you're earning 5% interest on this. In that first year, you're going to be making $50. And then in the second year, if you don't invest another dollar, say you make another 5% of your money, you're now making 5% on that initial $1,000 you had, which is $50, and then you're going to be making 5% on that $50 that you made in profit from year one, which is, I don't know what my math works out to, so I'm not even going to guess there. But you get the point. You're making more than your original $50. So every year your investing snowball gets bigger and bigger. This works with capital gains. If you make 8% on your first year, and then 8% on the second year, you're going to be making 8% on your profit and your initial investment. So the earlier you start, the bigger that snowball is able to get. And dividends also help in the snowball or this compound interest effect. The longer you keep your money saved or invested, the more it's able to grow. That's the simple way to put it. Compound interest means that your money is able to multiply more and more over time. And this goes hand in hand with the next mistake, and that's not saving for retirement. When many people are young, in their 20s and the 30s, they say, I'm going to enjoy my money. I'll worry about retirement later when I'm 40 or when I'm 50 or even when I'm retired, I'll find a job or something. That's the biggest mistake because like I said in the last point, starting early is key in investing. It has more time to grow. There are many tax advantage retirement accounts that you should be taking advantage of as early as possible. There's the HSA, the health savings account. There's the 401k, and there's also the Roth IRA. These are 3 accounts that you should start investing in as early as possible so that money has the most amount of time to grow. Starting investing early into your retirement accounts will allow you to have that nest egg when you grow up and you retire and you're 59 and a half or you're 60 years old and you want to buy that boat or that new sports car, you want to move to Florida, whatever the case may be. Starting early allows you to do that. So delay that gratification, put some money into your retirement accounts and let that money grow, and then check it in 30, 40 years and see those millions of dollars. And the last mistake that many people do in their 20s or in their 30s is not negotiating your salary. I'm not the type of person who thinks you can cut your expenses so much that you become rich, because number one, you'll live a miserable life. Life is not meant to be cheap, and it's meant to be, conscious of your money, but that doesn't mean you have to be cheap and you can't buy that coffee. Everyone says don't buy that avocado toast and that Starbucks coffee. No, go ahead and do that. But focus on the big questions. How can I make $20,000 more in a year? How can I make $50,000 more in a year? And you can start with number one, and that's asking for a raise at your job. Many people think that they get a raise every year when they get that 3% or that 4% raise. If you got a 3% raise last year, I'm sorry, you didn't get a 3% raise. Your pay actually went down 5%. Where's this guy getting 5% from? Well, last year, if you remember, we had 8% inflation, but your pay only went up 3%. So that means from your pay this year and your pay last year, there's a difference adjusted for inflation of 5% lower. So when you're going to work, try to make the most of your time, try to put in the most amount of effort that you can and get that raise. So, take on some more projects that will allow you to get paid more, because you don't want to focus on the $5 questions. You want to focus on how can I make $20,000? And when you do get that $20,000, I want you to take that money and start investing more. This way you'll have more money for the future. Like I said, you can go ahead and enjoy some of that money, buy something for yourself as a congratulations, but definitely do not let lifestyle creep come in and buy new bags every single week. That's not $20,000 more to spend. That's $20,000 for your future. That's $20,000 for your retirement every year, and so on. So in conclusion, some of the mistakes we went over are not having an emergency fund. That's mistake number one. Having too much debt. Living above your means when you're not able to afford things, still buying them, not having enough money for retirement, and so on. So I hope now that you're aware of these mistakes that people make in their 20s and 30s, I hope you're actually able to avoid these mistakes. So if you haven't already, guys, make sure to like the channel, subscribe to the page, turn on that post notification bell, and we'll see you guys in the next one.